Hello everyone, Espresso Killer here. Today is a huge day in the battle sector world with the release of patch 1.04.160. It brings a few things to the game, some balance, a couple new units for the Astra Militarum, but the biggest change, the one that I am most excited about, is a complete rework of the Sisters of Battle faction. So we're going to go through most of these patch notes together. There are a few other smaller changes that I'm not going to cover in this video. I'll probably talk about them on stream, and I will definitely do a deeper dive on the Cadian units in another video. But today, we're mostly going to be focusing on how the Sisters of Battle are new, what this patch brings, and what you can expect from the game. So let's get into it. I'll start with the new units. First up is the new Cadian Sergeant. Look at this model. It looks absolutely awesome. The Cadian Sergeant is a really cool infantry support model. Coming in at 80 points, this is a very affordable HQ unit. You can take up to 6 of them, so the intent really is that you are going to spam these if you're bringing a heavy infantry list. We've got 145 health, a single action point, 4 movement, 3 armor, and 10 evasion. Now he's got a las pistol and a chainsword for weaponry. He is a battle line HQ officer. He is an embedded officer, so he will get plus 10 evasion when he's surrounded by other troops, plus 10 evasion per unit. And then Vox linked. So this is this HQ unit's passive. When a unit starts in battle line formation with this unit, they're going to receive 5 evasion and plus 1 awareness cone range. So they can actually see further than they normally could. This is kind of nice if you're setting up Overwatch with some really long guns, or if you're trying to push up a flank and get some good information on scouting. But he has some active buffs he can use as well. First is Take Aim. So any infantry touching the Cadian Sergeant, so you can get up to 8 of them in the 3x3 tiles around him, they get plus 10% ranged accuracy. Now that's pretty good, especially on units like heavy weapon squads. It's important to note this will only work with infantry, so you can't use this on your tanks, but you can use it on your Kazarkin, your shock troops, your other officers, your Ogrins, etc. The second ability is Take Cover. So friendly infantry units within 1 tile receive plus 1 ranged armor. Again, this is really nice to be able to spam on your troops. It makes them a little bit more survivable. This will save a squad of guard from a grenade. It will not save them from a vehicle explosion, but just a little bit of extra survivability. And again, you can put this ranged armor on all of your infantry units. This is a really nice unit. He only has 1 action point, so you really are going to have to pick, do I want to take aim or take cover this turn? I like the thematic element to it. I think it's very powerful, and I think we're going to continue to see people trying to spam some infantry guard lists. Next up, Leman Russ got a battle cannon on it. So previously, this was only available on the tank commander. You can see the tank commander's got it there. But now the Leman Russ can take it too. So it's a single shot. It does 93 to 125 damage at AP4, but then it also has 2 splash damage, 57 to 87 damage. It is a pretty good gun. I think it's really good on the tank commander because he can shoot it twice, which definitely gives you a good shot to wipe some squads, especially like 5-man infantry squads. It's pretty good. I'm not sure it's amazing. I'm glad they included it. Really didn't make a lot of sense to not include it. So you've got a little bit more options with your firepower on the Leman Russ. Couple other quick changes to guard. The Kazarkin got a point increase up to a base cost of 90, and hotshot volley guns are now 20 points. So if you are taking the upgrade, this unit's going to be 110 points now. Honestly, I think that's perfectly fair. They were definitely overtuned for their cost. They're one of the best elite shooting units in the game. Combine that with their ability to just drop out of a Valkyrie and nuke something, I think this is perfectly fine. Another important change happened to the tank commander's ability Pound Them to Dust. It still gives 100% shots to a friendly vehicle, but it gives minus 10 accuracy as well. I'm not sure how big of a nerf that is. Generally, you're able to boost the accuracy of your tanks pretty reliably, but I can see in some edge cases this making a big difference, especially if you're shooting against something very far away or something that already has quite high evasion. It could be a difference maker. Another important update is a change to the Blood Angels Intercessors. Both of their bolt rifles got an extra armor piercing, but their range on the auto bolt rifle was reduced to 5 from 6, and the accuracy on the bolt rifle was increased from 80 to 85. This is definitely a buff. Definitely a buff to Space Marines, to their base infantry unit, and a bit of a spoiler to some of the changes we'll see in the Sisters. Again, I'll do a whole deep dive video on these two units, try out some new armies, and see how they work. But the order of the day, really is the Sisters of Battle. So let's talk about the Sisters of Battle. When they came out, they were absolutely overpowered, and over time, they've gotten some nerfs. They got their momentum gain nerfed. They got their CP abilities nerfed. They've really just kind of slipped in the power level. So this update is the dev shot at making them a bit more competitive again, but also making them a lot more interesting. Pretty much every unit in this faction was reworked. So we're going to go skill by skill, unit by unit, weapon by weapon, and talk about all the changes and their implications for the faction. The first thing was their faction skill has been changed. Previously, Sisters would gain momentum upon taking damage, and that momentum would translate into 0.5 evasion per momentum. It was pretty good at keeping them survivable, but it didn't do anything against auto-hitting weapons like flamers, and pretty much every faction has a way to boost their accuracy or ignore enemy evasion. The ability was definitely losing some of its effectiveness. Now, the new ability keeps that evasion gain, but lowers it to 0.2 evasion per momentum. So now at 100 momentum, you're only going to have a maximum of 20 evasion. However, they are also getting plus crit rate per momentum. So they are going to be up to 20% crit when a unit is surging. Now, the command abilities received a complete overhaul. It used to be that for a single CP, you could give your entire army Divine Guidance, which was ranged accuracy and crit chance. For 2 CP, you could give them Spirit of the Emperor, which was +2 movement. And for 3 CP, Righteous Judgment, which was +1 armor piercing, and plus 20% damage. Now, the abilities work much differently. Now, each of the CP abilities costs a single command point. That's right, every CP ability is a single command point, and the abilities have been tweaked a bit. Divine Guidance remains the same, so Divine Guidance is +10. Spirit of the Emperor now gives +1 movement, so it is no longer +2 movement, and it is a much smaller range. So the sister command abilities are one of the areas that got the biggest rework. So now the area is smaller. The caster has a max range of 3 tiles away, and that area that they are casting the command ability is 5 by 5, so much smaller. However, they all cost a single command point now. Every ability is 1 CP, and they have been tweaked a little bit. Now, Divine Guidance is unchanged. Spirit of the Emperor is down from +2 movement to +1 movement, but again, you can now do that every turn. And Righteous Judgment is +15% damage instead of +20% damage and +1 armor piercing. So now, instead of sort of saving up for these big turns, you're going to have the opportunity to really apply these buffs in more concentrated ways more frequently. I like this change a lot because it feels a bit more like the Sisters' tabletop mechanic, Miracle Die, which is a way you can sort of build up a reserve of special dice, use them at important moments to spike your damage, save a character, pass an armor save, whatever. This feels a little bit more like that. It's a big change in that you're going to have a lot of options all the time. Sisters are always scary because they have so many abilities, so many tools, and this just gives them a lot more flexibility with what they do with those tools and when they can make their moves. Another army-wide ability that was changed is the Shield of Faith. Shield of Faith used to be that when a unit took damage, they had a 50% chance to gain +1 ranged armor and +1 melee armor, which is pretty good. 50% of the time, you get some more armor on your units, but Shield of Faith is now significantly better. The way it works is when an enemy unit targets your sisters, i.e. before they've done any damage, they get a stack of Shield of Faith, which stacks up to 5 times. This gives them +6 ranged armor and +6 melee armor. At a max of 5 stacks, you're looking at +3 ranged and melee armor. You are getting Sisters of Battle units with 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 armor. It is way more survivability for the Sisters, and you are guaranteed to get it every time they're targeted with an attack. Now, it's important to note that only direct fire attacks will trigger this. Grenades will not, scattered artillery will not, taking damage from an exploding vehicle will not. The unit has to be targeted. I really like this change because not only does it give you options, it gives your opponent a difficult decision. Chip damage without a kill is actually a buff to the unit. You really have to make sure you're going to kill the sisters or they're going to be harder and harder to kill. I think it's very thematic, it's very flavorful, and it's very powerful. So while we are on the Canoness, let's go ahead and talk about her abilities. So she now gets the Shield of Faith ability. She did not previously have that. She starts each battle with 30 momentum, which is quite nice. She no longer has Glorious Incantation. That ability has been moved to the Hospitaller. She is now a purely offensive character. She has received some updates to her weapons. The Condemner Bolt Gun got an extra armor piercing, and it is now immune to grazes. Plasma Pistol now costs 15 points instead of 30. The Power Sword is unchanged. The Blessed Blade now costs 10 points less. But the most important thing about the Blessed Blade, it is now immune to grazes. That is an amazing buff. You are never going to be worrying about the armor differential or whiffing an attack that does 5 damage. She will kill the things that you want her to kill. Now, another important ability is Rising Faith. So anytime this unit attacks and kills an enemy model, it will gain a stack of Rising Faith. So as she's killing models, it's important to remember models, not units, so she can gain this ability quite quickly when killing smaller horde units. She'll be getting up to 15% crit chance. Now, the Canoness has another ability called Divine Inspiration that can take all of her Shield of Faith stacks that she has received from being targeted by enemy units and convert them into momentum, plus 10 momentum per stack, which means you can juice this unit with 50% momentum if you have 5 Shield of Faith stacks. That is incredible. You are basically give yourself a way to make this unit surge. The Canoness also has Faith and Fury, so she can trade her Rising Faith stacks that she has got from killing models for Faith and Fury. So you can take 5 Rising Faith stacks and turn them into plus 30% damage and plus 1 action point. I think you're starting to see the combo. You get 5 Shield of Faith stacks. You trade them for plus 10 momentum to make her surge. You empower an ability that makes it free or makes her go further. And then when she goes in and kills a bunch of stuff, you can trade those Rising Faith stacks for more attacks, more damage, and another action point. So you can see how sisters are sort of taking damage, gaining up resources, gaining these ability stacks, and then kind of holding them and waiting for the best opportunity to leverage them. It's very cool. It's very thematic. I think it's very high skill level. It's awesome. Another really cool ability is Divine Deliverance. This costs an action point, but it gives the Canoness plus 1 movement, an additional melee attack, and 25% momentum gain. She also loses 10 evasion. It also will give her a stack of Rising Faith. This is a great ability to use in conjunction with Divine Inspiration. You can surge and empower it. You can use Divine Deliverance, then surge to get that extra action point back. You can give her 3 attacks with a Blessed Blade and an extra movement. She is an absolute death missile. 3 attacks, 67 and 90 damage. She's insane. She's a very scary character. I think you're going to need to watch for a Canoness in every list you come up against. But we're not done. She retains a few more abilities. She keeps her Rosarius, so minus 15% damage received. And Honor the Martyrs has been changed. It used to be that when this unit died, your entire army got 50% momentum gains, which was kind of good, but really easy to play around for your opponent. Just kill her last. It was a bit flavorful, but not super effective. The unit's been tweaked a bit to an aura. So if any Adeptus Roritas unit dies within 5 tiles of this unit, then this unit and all adjacent allies gain plus 10 momentum. So if she is sitting next to a bunch of sister squads and a unit nearby dies, she is going to hand out momentum to all the units around her, including herself. I think this is really nice. If you're running a Canoness, you probably want some kind of melee death ball, and this is a way to get absolutely the most value out of all of those units, even when they're dying. She's 200 points, 230 points with a Blessed Blade. She is a one-woman wrecking squad, and you're going to need to keep your eye on her in all of your sisters matches. Next up, we have the Sister Superior. So she has also received some updates. She got 30 extra HP. She used to be 150 HP. She got an update to her ability Battle Sermon. So now this gives plus 1 ranged damage instead of plus 15% ranged damage. So that is better on weapons like bolters and flamers. Not so good on high damage units like Inferno Pistols or Multi-Meltas, but she is still handing out plus 15% melee damage. I think this looks better than it seems because the bolters got a buff as well. All of their bolters are AP 2 or 3 now, so giving an extra range damage to each of those shots is kind of a big deal. Litany of Devotion has remained the same, plus 30 momentum and plus 15% bonus HP on an allied unit. An extra bonus that the Sister Superior now gets a stack of Rising Faith when she does it. So she also has Rising Faith, stacking up to 5 times, like the Canoness, which she can trade for momentum with Divine Inspiration. So again, you kind of see that building up a reserve of a resource and then choosing a moment to use that resource and turn it into more damage and empowered ability, etc. She also has Shield of Faith. She also has Faith in Fury, so she can trade 5 Rising Faith stacks to get 30 damage and an extra action point. Her bolter got buffed. It has an extra AP now. The plasma pistol is also cheaper, down from 30 points to 15. And her power sword is cheaper as well. I believe it went down to 20 points from 55, so a 35-point reduction for the Sister Superior. So on to the Hospitaller. She now has Medicus Ministorum. This used to be called Glorious Incantation, and it used to be a Canoness ability, so that now goes on the Hospitaller, which I honestly think is a great change. It kind of keeps in the theme with her, making your units tougher and more survivable. So all allies within one tile will get plus 10 bonus HP and minus 10% damage received, which is effectively plus 20% HP. She also retains Rites of Intercession, which adds an extra AP to an allied unit, excluding vehicles, walkers, and arcoflagellant. And she retains Sacred Healing, removes all negative status effects, and plus 50% healing. One of the nice things about this is it used to just be healing instead of removing status effects. What this change allows you to do is target a unit that is at full health, and casting this gives your Hospitaller momentum. So every turn, if you have the action point, you can just cast this on a unit to get her a little bit of momentum. She also has Divine Inspiration, so she can convert her Shield of Faith stacks into momentum. I think with this unit, you're almost certainly using it to surge or empower an ability. She's very good. She's very strong. I think if she wasn't already an auto include in Sisters of Battle lists, she certainly will be now. Getting into the elites, Sacrosancts used to be a really good, tough, tanky unit, and they're even better now. They cost 100 points up from 90. They have the same amount of HP. However, they have a few newer abilities that really make them kind of insane. They still have their minus 15% damage received from their shields. They still have Oath of Protection, which gives them plus 1 armor and 10% bonus HP and is a good little HQ babysitting ability. They also have a new ability called Spirit of the Martyrs, which you will see on a few other Sisters units as well. But when a model in this unit is killed, it will gain a stack of Spirit of the Martyrs, which gives plus 50% damage. This can stack up to 4 times. So if you lose a model, these AP6 maces go from 30 damage to 45. If you lose another model, they go to 60 damage. If you lose another model, they go to 85. And if you have one model left, she is slapping you at 200% damage. It's a really cool ability. Paired with Shield of Faith, they can get up to 9 armor. You can have a 9 armor squad of these sitting on a point, guarding an HQ, holding a choke point, engaging something way tougher than they should be fighting, and they will do some damage and survive. I think you are going to see a lot of these units in Sisters games. They take so much effort to kill, and as you kill them, they get scarier and scarier. Up next, we have the Celestians. So the Celestians have gotten some changes. I think this is a great moment to note that all of the sister bolters got plus 1 armor piercing, so all of the base bolters are now AP2, and the character bolters are now AP3. That's really good. That's really, really good. I'm a big fan of that change. It makes bolters pretty significant. And they now get Blessed Ammunition, which used to only be on Sisters of Battle squads. So 50% range damage and minus 10 graze chance when attacking. Less of a chance that they're going to graze their hits. Up next, we have the Flamer, which remains unchanged, and the Meltagun, which remains unchanged. However, just like the Celestians Sacrosancts, the regular Celestians have Spirit of the Martyrs, so if you kill a single one of these, they're doing plus 15% damage that stacks up to 4 times. We're talking about losing a model, and all of a sudden all your Meltaguns are at 50% damage. That's really good. That's really good. It's better than just buffing the meltaguns themselves, in my opinion, because that would kind of require more of a price increase. There's a bit of a condition on it now, but it's very good. Your opponent is going to be asking themselves all the time, do I actually want to attack this unit? It is a very legitimate question that you're going to have to ask, especially if you're not sure if you can kill them. They also have Divine Inspiration, so they are also converting their Shield of Faith stacks into momentum. So you can see how these Sisters of Battle are going to find ways to surge over and over again. Let's talk about Sisters Repentia, one of my favorite units in the faction. They got a +5 HP buff, which is nice. They remain the same cost. Their weapons remain the same, but Path of the Penitent is their new ability. This unit will make a single charge attack with plus 10% damage per movement point used. They will gain +1 movement, -10 evasion, and cannot be suppressed for the duration of that attack. However, it expires in 2 turns, which I believe means... I actually don't know what that means. It says only for the duration of the attack, but expires in 2 turns. So I'm not sure. I'll see if I can get some clarity on that. They also now have Absolution in Battle, which whenever they make a weapon attack, not kill a model, just make an attack, or when a model in their unit is killed, they get +5 melee accuracy and +5 graze chance when attacked. So a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. I think Repentia are still very good. I'm curious to see how they feel. Having the extra movement on the charge is quite nice. I think they're still going to be going after big scary units, but you'll feel less bad about putting them into smaller squads because of the changes to Absolution in Battle. All right, up next we have the Exorcist. This is a tough one. This tank has been not great for the entire time it's existed, and it's gotten some tweaks and adjustments and nerfs, but it's just never really quite felt right. So the missile launcher itself got buffed. It went up to AP6 from AP5, and it now does splash damage to 9 units instead of 7, so you can wipe out 10 unit squads of chaff now. The Hunter Killer Missile got +2 AP, so it is now AP8 instead of AP6, and Devastating Refrain has been changed. So this unit sacrifices all of its remaining movement points and attacks up to 3 selected targets with +2 crit chance and +2 accuracy for every movement point spent. These are back up to 4 movement points. They've been nerfed down to 3 in the patch that gave them the artillery keyword. This is a really interesting unit. It's still very expensive at 230 points, but it is quite a bit more deadly now, and I am absolutely going to try it out. So vehicles kind of have a Shield of Faith mechanic of their own called Blessed Hull. Anytime this is hit by an enemy attack, so different than Shield of Faith in that they do need to be hit, not just targeted, this unit gains -3% damage received. So that's up to -15% damage received. I think it's pretty good. I think it makes them a bit tougher. I think ideally this isn't really getting shot at anyway, but good to know that your tanks will be a little bit more survivable. It's important to note this picked up the artillery keyword in a previous patch, so if you do miss a shot, you got a chance to hit something else. Could be your unit, could be an enemy unit, but there you go. So the Immolator, not much has changed here. It did also get Blessed Hull, but there is one big update. Its heavy bolters got buffed. I used to say I would take this as a transport if it had the same bolter profile as a land speeder, and hey, now it does. It's got 30 attacks, range 1 to 8, optimal 4, base accuracy 85, and that extra pip of armor piercing. I'm curious to see at 180 points if this is worth taking as a transport. It's a bit tankier than a Rhino. It does a little bit of damage. You've also got the hull-mounted heavy bolter as well. I do still think the Immolation Flamers are probably the way to go, but if you want to take a transport that does a little bit of decent chip damage, I think this is a good option. I'm excited to play with it. Next, we have the Penitent Engine. So he gained the Absolution in Battle ability, which will stack twice for this unit. So whenever it makes a weapon attack, it's getting +10 melee accuracy and +5% graze. Torment amplifiers are now +25% damage, +30 momentum, and -20 evasion. So a little bit of a tweak there. It works very nicely with Absolution in Battle, which is giving you damage and momentum with more accurate attacks. I'm still not entirely sure if the Penitent Engine is good enough, but I'm certainly going to bring it in a few lists to find out. On to our next unit of warsuits, we have the Paragon warsuits. So these got a little buff. They went up to 150 HP from 140. They also now have a unit bonus of +10 accuracy for all ranged weapons. So that base accuracy 80 is actually base accuracy 90. Which is quite nice for the unit. The Heavy Flamer is now 10 points cheaper, and the Multi-Melta is now 10 points cheaper. They have also gained Spirit of the Martyrs. So this stacks twice when a model dies instead of once like the other Celestian units, which is great because they only have 3 models. So they are doing 100% damage when you lose one of them. Guys, that's 6 to 10 damage on 20 flamer attacks. 150 damage per multi-melta attack. That's really good. It does mean you have to lose a model, but I think, again, if your opponent attacks these and they are not able to kill them, it's going to be a big problem. They also now have Divine Inspiration, so as they gain Shield of Faith, they can trade that for momentum. Armor 7, they can gain up to 3 armor. This unit can get up to Armor 10. 3 Armor 10 walkers. That is really, really good. And when you kill one of them, the rest of them are doing 100% damage on all of their ranged and melee weapons. This is a very scary unit. There's a lot of good units now, so a lot of units fighting for viability, but I think Sacrosancts are one of the most interesting after this change. On to the heavy weapon gals. The Retributors have received more changes than any other unit. So they now have different abilities that work with their different loadouts. Their base stats have remained the same. They still have Shield of Faith, and they can trade those Shield of Faith stacks with Divine Inspiration for momentum. But now they have some special other abilities. The unit has a new ability called Bastion of the Faith that works a little bit like Set Up does on Guard heavy weapon squads. Basically, you can trade all of your movement points, and for each movement point you trade, you get +5 crit chance. This is kind of nice if you're ever moving them around and you just have extra movement. There's no reason not to use this and give yourself a stack. Those stacks stay on the unit for 2 turns, so you have a bit of a window to get that efficiency out of them. And then you can use the Storm of Retribution to trade all of your stacks for +1 shot, +2 range stability per attack spent. So when you trade 4 stacks, you have 5 heavy bolters with 12 attacks at AP4 at 90 accuracy. That's really good. The Retributors with Heavy Flamers have the same Bastion of Faith ability, but their stack changes to 1 additional shot and -2 graze chance. So they are able to tackle higher armor models, which is very cool. When you trade 4 stacks, you get an additional +1 damage, +1 AP. That means if you are trading 4 stacks, you have 50 AP3 flame attacks with -8 graze chance, which isn't crazy, but that's a lot of damage. So the Multimeltas can change Bastion of Faith for Strike of Faith. It gives them +2 ranged stability, which is a modifier to the fall-off accuracy number. So you see that accuracy fall-off as 10 per tile. Basically, that is going to bring that down to 8 per tile. Now, if you spend all 4 stacks, you get +10 accuracy, +10 damage, and +1 armor. So that means at max stacks, you're shooting Multimeltas with a range of 6 at accuracy 90, 2 accuracy fall off, AP 9, 43 to 55 damage. These are really good anti-tank killers. I think you need to be really afraid of Retributors. They're coming for you. Up next, we have the Seraphim, one of my favorite units, one of the most reliable units in the Sisters of Battle. They went up quite a bit. They are quite a bit more expensive now. They used to be 60 points. They are now 75. These are actually quite good. They will do a surprising amount of damage to some low armor targets. And it makes the Bolt Pistol Seraphim actually, I think, a viable option to take if you're looking to keep the unit cheap. Their Hand Flamers got some changes as well. They're now much cheaper. They used to be 20 points. They're now 10. Their shots went down to 12 from 16. And their armor piercing went down to AP1. So they're sort of swapping some of the cost of this into their base cost, which means, it's less punishing to take Hand Flamers. I do think they're quite good, but really only against chaff units, but I'm not sure. I think these might be better than you think. Inferno Pistols just got a buff. They used to be 40 points. They are now 25. So you're still looking at 100 points per unit if you're taking the Inferno Pistols. That math has worked out to the same, and they're just more survivable now. So overall, I do think when you look at the weapon loadout that people are most often taking, Inferno Pistols, it works out to be the exact same cost, and the unit is better. It is more survivable. It has ways to surge. The base loadout is better. Overall, definitely a really strong buff to the unit, and expect to see a lot of them. Arcoflagellants, they have received some nerfs in the past. They used to be 60 points. They are now 55, so a little bit more affordable. They picked up the Absolution and Battle ability, just like the Sisters Repentia and the Penitent Engine. So when they are attacking or losing models, they're getting more accurate and becoming more difficult to kill. They lost a movement point, which is definitely a nerf. Not having 5 movement on these does make it tougher for them to fill their role as scouting troops and your really good screen. However, you can get that movement point back with Zealous Frenzy. This ability has been changed a bit. They now get +1 movement, they get +1 armor piercing, and they cannot be suppressed. So much like Repentia, they have a little bit more reach on the charge, the same amount of reach they had previously, but they are a bit slower overall. I'm curious to see how this shakes out. I still think you're going to see them in almost all Sisters lists. They did lose a little bit of mobility, so I'm curious to see how they play. Sisters of Battle. This might be one of the most buffed units in the game right now, and I'm not even joking. The big changes here are Sisters of Battle are now quite a bit more expensive. They're now 65 points instead of 50, but that's because they are significantly better. They gain Divine Inspiration, so they already had Shield of Faith, but they can now convert that into momentum. The Battle Sisters now have Crack and Frag Grenades. I think that's an awesome change. Crack Grenades used to previously only be on the Celestians. Now this unit just has a ton of utility. They retain Blessed Bolts. Just overall a much better infantry unit. Shield of Faith is going to make them much more difficult to kill. They're going to be able to surge if they need to. They have multiple grenade options. They might be the best infantry unit in the game right now. Taking a list that maxes out your sisters, I think you can take up to 6 of them, is not a bad idea. They do a lot of damage. They're very survivable. They can deal with any kind of threat with their grenades and blessed bolts. En masse, they are very strong. I think you're going to see a lot of infantry sisters in the future. Last but certainly not least, we have the OG transport, the Rhino. This did get a little bit cheaper. It is now 145 points instead of 150. It picked up Blessed Hull. Its self-heal got buffed. It used to only be 15 per turn. Now it is plus 30 per turn. And then the transport capacity got changed. So it was always 11 models, but it used to only be 2 units. Now it can take 11 models and 3 units. That is a really big deal because that means you can put 2 5-model squads in here with a character. We're talking Retributors with a character, Repentia with a character, Sacrosanct with a character. Really, anything you want to put in here with a character, you can. It's really hard for me to oversell how strong that is in terms of delivering absolute devastating strikes on your opponent. The smokescreen remains the same. I do think it's better now. I think smokescreen is actually better than it was because your sisters are still getting evasion, but they're now also getting armor. A very strong unit indeed. So there you go. We got through a lot. I tried to kind of throw this together really quickly so you could get my thoughts on it and leave your thoughts below. There is going to be a lot more to uncover as we explore this update. It's a big one, and I think the girls are back. I think they are so back in a way that is very exciting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my chat on the next stream. Peace.